JSA issue number 1. That's right, folks. DC is all in on the JSA until they won't be, because that's just how this brand goes. You know, sometimes they're like, we're pushing the Justice Society, and other times they're like, well, who knows how any of it goes. They've been back for a bit, death metal. They were in like a room, and then we had absolute power and stuff happen, and the characters are back and they're all in or whatever. It's exciting. I like the JSA a lot. I think they're an important team. I like seeing them represented. I like any iteration of them represented. It's cool to have these characters doing stuff. This book also sparks the return of Jeff Lemire to DC. It's been a minute, but here he is back doing this book, which is pretty exciting. I do enjoy this issue. It feels very classic comic book to me. It feels like the idea that Lemire wants to present is sometimes the old-fashioned ways are relevant and they matter, and I do appreciate when a comic book is saying that. Like, the time that this video will be going live, I don't want to get too deep into like the world news, but there was a big election the previous night, and it's interesting to say the least. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but I don't really like the results of that election. And I think having characters who represent like a better time, just like fighting for a better tomorrow in like an old school hokey fashion, is important. And to see that is important. I like this book a lot, actually. I think it's kind of interesting. Classic comic book stuff. So it opens up with like a refresher of the JSA. Like the first panel we see is their logo. It's like they were the first. They were the first heroes. They inspired everything after them. World War II was going on. Some people were made of science. Some were magic. Some just knew how to throw a punch. But they were there. They started off as a small society and their numbers grew. They had kids and they grew up and there was a new generation. They fought together. They did a lot of different stuff. They had different iterations and different eras throughout time and space. They're a good team. They're strong and important. They did stuff recently in like a book called Absolute Power and stuff. We kind of see that depicted. Alan Scott kind of became like the figurehead who like deals with the Trinity and the Justice League and stuff. But nonetheless, they're back and they're good, and they are the characters that we need to talk about. This is all from an anonymous narrator who ends this part of the book with like a recreation of the first panel, but this time the JSA logo is covered in blood. Oh no, they were a family, but families can be torn apart. Oh no. So this arc is called Ragnarok, which is like the end of all things, which makes sense. Like, you gotta go big if you're doing the JSA, because how are you gonna get your audience in? You gotta try, right? So this book opens up in Louisiana, and we see two Cobra soldiers like running away from a mysterious thing, and we see that it's the shadow of Obsidian, and he's like in a weird grotesque creature. He's like, all right, Cobra's been doing stuff in the area. We know there's another attack coming. Why don't you tell us where it is? The one guy confesses that's in like the hidden museum, and then the other Cobra soldier's like traitor and shoots him in the head, and he's gonna kill himself when Jessie Quick grabs the gun, and she's like, stop. It's not going to be that easy. And we see Yolanda's there, the Wildcat. She is one of the Wildcats in this book. She's like, okay, let's stop that and do this the right way. But Obsidian is going a little intense. He's going to like put parts of himself through like the mouth and nostrils of the agent. And then Jade shows up with Hourman and Sandman. And she's like, stop. Okay, we're not doing it this way. But Obsidian's like, sometimes we have to do it this way. We have to get the information the only way we know how. She's like, would you just stop, Todd? Okay, like, I'm the chair of the Justice Society. We're not going to go do this way. We'll get the information a different way. So they head back to the Brownstone. Pretty cool. It's just the young generation fighting amongst themselves of how to handle things. They're already a divided team. Obsidian's like, we have to go harder. Maybe our dad and his generation did things bad. And we have to control things and take the power back. We realize that the old guard is off doing another mission that they can't really help. They're dealing with stuff involving Khalid, who's the new Dr. Fate. And we'll get to that in a minute here because it does show up in this book. And everyone's just kind of like yelling at each other, choosing sides. Like Our Man is mad that Jesse Quick went to like go with like Obsidian to do that mission without confronting him because they're in like a relationship or whatever. Sandman suggests like, should we just bring in like our reserve members, like Stargirl and Mr. Terrific and Black Canary? It is the Dinah Black Canary, which I find very interesting, and Power Girl's there too. They make the distinction of calling this the Infinity Inc. chapter, which I think is very important. We'll get back to that in a minute here. And this is the younger generation, and they're yelling at each other the whole time. The siblings are yelling at each other. The boyfriend and girlfriend are yelling at each other. Nobody's really happy. Yolanda eventually storms off like, okay, like we're going to have to deal with this thing with the Cobra team. We'll have to do it some dangerous way. Obviously. So the meeting is adjourned, and Sandman wants to talk to Jade. Like, hey, before like all the bullshit happened with us, I think we were like connecting on like an intimate level. She's like, can we not have this conversation right now? It is not the time. So she's like, all right, I'm going to go check on Jakeem. You just stay here and, like, watch the base or whatever. Then we get a sequence where Our Man and Jesse are yelling at each other. He's mad that she's going in, like, the path of darkness, whatever. You know how it goes. It works. Like, it's good stuff. And it's the kind of, like, energy you want from this book. It's characters who are like, we have to do this the right way. And characters who are like, we have to go more. We can't keep doing this like Jay and Alan and Ted, you know? Like, we have to take things in a different direction. I appreciate that. It's fun. We cut to Jakeem, who's in the book, but he's in, like, a hospital bed. And Dr. Midnight's like, well, I don't know what's wrong with him, but we're doing everything we can, so this kind of sucks. I hope we can do it. It's going fine for them. If you have no idea who these characters are, I think this book does a really good job of like setting up like this is the generation that grew up kind of between generations, so there's anger and hostility but like respect and stuff, and I think we're seeing that represented really well. People like Yolanda and Jesse wanting to go like a more intense route, and you got like Rick and Jade who were like, we have to do this the right way. I think it's doing that well. Meanwhile, we cut to the other members of the JSA, the old guard. They're at the Tower of Fate because Khalid's doing some dangerous magic to try to like get them out of like this place they're trapped in. Carter and Kendra are outside. Both of them. It's both of them. Those versions. They are name dropped as Carter and Kendra. They're fighting a bunch of demons outside. Jay is running around the Tower of Fate trying to find like an exit for them to escape. Alan is just there trying to like comfort Khalid. Like, you're doing great, son. You got this. Take your time. We're going to be okay. And Ted's there like, I should have went outside to do some punching. He's like, hey, you'll get a chance to punch stuff. Just hold on a second. And Khalid's like, I'm freaking out. Like, everything I'm looking at in these dimensions is telling me to like follow the darkness, and that's scary, and I don't like that. I don't like what's going on here. So they're trying to find an exit. Khalid like goes into like the mindscape or whatever. He hears Jay saying like, I'm getting lost in this building. He's like, no, it is I who am getting lost. And like a weird mysterious darkness like emerges to Khalid and like, take me, let me take you. I'll take your burden. You don't have to suffer alone. Like a dark figure just takes him. It's either like intentionally silhouetted or just like hiding who the character is. And like it attacks Khalid and burns him out, and he like passes out. He passes out. So the old guard's still trapped in there. Kendra and Carter are still like fighting in like the midst of everything going on. Carter's like, we'll do our best. If the kid's gone, then this is it. We're the final stand. Rah-rah! You know, just kind of going intense and crazy. It's pretty sick. And then you're like, that's fun. That's a cool way to end the book. But we get one more sting at the end introducing us to what we're setting up. And we follow Obsidian as he's talking to like some mysterious voices like, the tower is still under siege. It's beginning. Our plan is working. And he's like, the kid can't last that long. I thought he'd last longer. So Obsidian like opens a weird portal. And then there's a voice that's going, and the rest of the JSA, they don't suspect you. And he's like, oh no, they don't suspect a thing. And Obsidian turns into classic villain of the JSA, Johnny Sorrow. And he steps out into like the Injustice Society. So we see them all standing at a table. And we're going to do it. We're doing like a dark thing with the characters. Pretty fun. Like, that's how the book ends. Look at that. We have somebody on the inside posing as Obsidian, trying to spread darkness to the team, get them to want to go into like a dark path. That's pretty sick. I dig it. Like, that works really well. It's a cool idea. And we'll see where that goes. But I thought this was a very enjoyable little book. Very classic comic book. Like, it's just, this team is back. They're in turmoil. We still don't really know where to put them or what to do with them. But we're getting closer. I think that works really well for these characters. I am excited to see where we can go from here. I truly am. I think it's going to be really fun. I like it. So, JSA issue number 1. I am going to give an 8 out of 10. Now, thank you all for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And of course, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.